You ever have one of those nights where, deep down, you just know you're making a bad decision, but you go through with it anyway? That was me. I should have said no. I don't even like haunted houses. Never have. They've always made me feel off. Not scared in the fun way, more like something heavy sitting in my chest kind of way. But everyone around me was hyped about it, like it was some unmissable fall ritual, and I didn't want to be the one guy who bailed again. So yeah, I said yes. It was 6 of us hanging at Marcus's place before heading out. Backyard lights strung up. Music low, the kind of setup that makes everything feel lighter than it actually is. The drinks were flowing, and eventually someone passed around a joint. I remember just holding it for a second, staring at it like it was some test I had to pass. I never really smoke. Weed messes with my head, pulls stuff out of me I don't like looking at. But I told myself maybe if I mixed it with the drinks it'd cancel out, like math or something. I took 2 hits, tried to laugh with everyone, tried to relax, told myself it was fine. But my body, it knew better. My legs were already starting to feel weird, not in a fun way, just disconnected. The air felt too thick. My heart was beating like it was getting ready for something I didn't understand yet. I remember looking up at the sky and thinking, this night's gonna go sideways. And it hadn't even started yet. But I stayed quiet, smiled when I had to, went along like nothing was wrong. That was my first mistake. By the time the lift pulled up to the haunted house, things already felt off. Like the second I stepped out of the car, the air hit me different, not cold exactly, just heavy, like it was pressing down on my chest. Everyone else seemed fine, laughing, joking, pushing each other around like we were back in high school, but I wasn't really there with them. Not fully. The line wrapped around the building, and I remember watching it sway, like the people weren't standing still, like they were floating or something. That's when I realized my balance was off. The ground felt like it was pulsing beneath my shoes, and I couldn't tell if I was just really high or if something else was going on. I looked at Marcus, nodded along to whatever he was saying, but I couldn't even process the words. They just slid off me. There was this bassy music playing from somewhere near the entrance. Not loud, but low and rumbling, like it was crawling under my skin. That's when I noticed my hands felt numb, heavy, like I was dragging them through thick water. And the crowd, too loud, too close. Every time someone bumped into me, it felt like a jolt. Not painful, just electric, like my nerves were firing in the wrong direction. I kept thinking, it's fine, just hold it together. But the more I tried to ground myself, the more I felt like I was floating out of my own body. And still, I didn't say anything, because that would have meant admitting something was wrong, and I wasn't ready to do that. Not yet. I don't know if that room was supposed to feel that intense or if I just happened to be the unlucky one. It all landed on. Everything inside was dark and cold, fake concrete walls, hanging chains, this sick yellow light like something out of a basement. They were clearly going for some kind of torture dungeon setup, and I guess that's what people came for. But this wasn't fun scary. It wasn't even pretend. There was this massive guy in a cracked leather mask standing half in the shadows. I saw him move out of the corner of my eye. Before I could even react, he lunged, grabbed me by the shoulders, and slammed me against the wall. Not lightly, not like the jump scares from earlier. This felt intentional, like he meant it. Then he leaned in, real close, one hand gripping my arm, the other pressed into my side like he was trying to haul me somewhere. Maybe that was part of the show. Maybe he thought I'd scream or laugh or play along. But I didn't. I couldn't. Everything inside me just shut down. My whole chest tightened. My throat clamped up. I couldn't breathe. My brain didn't catch up fast enough. But my arms reacted. I shoved him, harder than I meant to. He stumbled. I think everyone around us went silent for a second. Just this weird pause in all the noise and screaming. I don't even know what I looked like. I didn't speak, couldn't. All I could feel was that grip still on my body, like it had followed me out of another time, another place. I wasn't in a haunted house anymore. I was back there again, and nothing about it felt fake. There was this one room deep into the walkthrough, red lit, like someone had replaced the bulbs with blood. It was hot in there, foggy too. I remember it smelled weird, like copper and sweat, But maybe that was just in my head. People were screaming and laughing, crowding around some actor doing this over-the-top preacher bit. He was yelling about judgment, about hell, waving a fake Bible and blood-soaked hand. I barely noticed him, because I was looking past him. There was a corner at the far end of the room, darker than the rest, and someone was just standing there, still, not moving, not part of the act. No costume, no fake blood, no expression, just standing, watching. At first, I thought maybe it was another guest, someone who wandered off or got lost. But the longer I looked, the more I felt this weight settle in my stomach. I knew that face, that posture, the way he held his arms stiff at his sides like he was waiting to be told what to do, the same cold eyes. It was him, not someone who looked like him, not a close enough. It was him, my dad, the same man who disappeared from my life years ago, the same man who left bruises and empty rooms behind him. And now here he was, standing in the corner of a haunted house like he'd just stepped out of my memory and into the room. I froze, my body went cold, then the scream came out before I even knew I was making it. I pointed, I swear I saw him, but when I looked again, gone, just gone. People laughed, some looked confused, no one else saw him. Maybe I didn't either, maybe I did, I still don't know. After that moment in the red room, I honestly couldn't tell you what happened next in any clear order. Everything kind of dissolved, like someone had taken a blurry photo of my brain and just kept shaking it. I was moving, I think. People were still screaming and laughing, but it was like it was all happening behind a wall of thick glass, too far away to touch, but still way too loud. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, not even a little. I kept clenching them into fists, but they just kept shaking. My legs felt like they were trying to run on their own, like my body wanted out before I'd even figured it out myself. I tried to speak. I know I did. I think I kept saying I needed to leave, or maybe I was just mouthing it over and over. Either way, nobody really heard me until Marcus looked at me and just knew. He didn't even ask. He just pulled me through some side door with an exit sign above it, and suddenly the screaming was gone. Or maybe it wasn't, I just stopped hearing it. I don't remember the walk out, I don't remember the staff, or the hallway, or how long it took. I just remember sitting outside on the curb, head down, shoes dusty from the gravel. Everything around me kept spinning in these weird waves. My stomach turned every few seconds, like it was trying to escape too. It didn't feel like I had left the haunted house. If anything, it felt like it had climbed inside me and closed the door behind it. Like I'd brought it with me, and now it was just part of me. I didn't know how to explain that to anyone. Still don't. We ended up at this greasy 24-hour diner down the road, one of those places that always smells like burnt coffee and old syrup. It was supposed to help, I guess. Ground me. Bring me back. I slid into the booth across from Marcus, and the rest of them showed up a few minutes later, laughing a little too loudly, like they were trying to fill the silence with something normal. I was still sweating, even though it was freezing inside. My hoodie felt damp against my skin, like it had soaked up everything I was trying to hide. I stared at the table. The fake wood grain looked like it was moving. Someone ordered fries for the table. I picked at them. They tasted like cardboard. The ketchup on the side of the plate looked too red, too much like something else, something I didn't want to see again. I pushed the plate away without thinking. I kept watching the door, not because I was expecting anyone, but because I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was going to walk in any second. Maybe him, maybe some version of him. It didn't matter how ridiculous that sounded. I couldn't stop checking. Nobody really talked to me, and I didn't blame them. What were they supposed to say? I looked messed up. I was messed up. They kept their conversations light, like trying not to poke a bruise. I nodded when I had to. Laughed once, I think. It didn't feel real. I wasn't sitting in a booth at a diner. Not really. Part of me was still there, still in that red-lit room, still frozen, still staring at him, and I didn't know how to come back from that. I still don't. When I got home, I didn't even change. I just collapsed onto my bed, fully dressed, hoodie still damp with sweat. My limbs felt like dead weight, my head buzzing in that weird, sick way like I'd been spun too fast and dropped. I passed out almost instantly, but it wasn't sleep. It felt more like falling. I was right back in that room. The red lights, the fog, the corner, I didn't need to look. I knew he was there. I could feel him, and then he spoke. Not loud, not angry, just quiet, like a whisper sliding right into my ear. He said my name, not like a threat, but more like he never really left. I opened my eyes, wide awake now, and he was there, standing over my bed, or bending really, too tall to fit right in the space, his spine bent at angles that shouldn't have been possible, his face just inches from mine, eyes stretched open like they were stuck that way, like they'd never blink again. His mouth wasn't moving, but I swear I could still hear him. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. I just laid there, my chest locked up, staring into the face I'd tried so hard to forget, and then I broke. I let out this scream I didn't know I had in me. All of it came out at once. Fear, rage, confusion. I remember the door bursting open and the light flooding in, my mom's voice, her hand shaking me, and just like that, he was gone. But the fear didn't leave with him. It stayed, it settled. I haven't touched weed since, barely drink, and haunted houses. I won't even drive past them now. Not after that night, not after him. You ever pass one of those places that feels off, like it shouldn't be where it is, or it just kind of appeared there without warning? That's how Hollow Creek felt. It didn't look like a haunted house. Not really. The sign was crooked and pixelated, like someone printed it off a home printer, stretched too wide and slapped it between two cinder blocks. Not even hammered in, just resting there, like it didn't want to commit. The parking area? Just some dirt lot beside an abandoned strip mall. No staff directing cars. No ropes. No lights. Just this patch of uneven gravel like the earth had tried to forget it. It was a Thursday night in October. College had us fried, and we all had Friday off. Hollow Creek had popped up in conversation. Someone saw a flyer, maybe a TikTok, maybe both, and next thing you know, the four of us were in Rico's busted Civic, following some vague GPS ping to what might have been a horror attraction, or a lawsuit waiting to happen. Me, Jonah, Rico, and Dev weren't looking for anything heavy. We expected dollar store skeletons and a fog machine from 2006, but something about the whole setup, it didn't match even those low expectations. There were no other cars when we pulled in, no sounds either, just this weird stillness, like the place was holding its breath. We joked about how sketchy it looked. That kind of nervous joking though, the kind you do to talk over a feeling you're trying not to acknowledge. But I remember standing there, ticket booth just ahead, and getting this dull unease in my stomach. Not fear exactly, just this static, like the place itself was watching us make up our minds. And we did. We walked toward it anyway. I don't know why we didn't say anything. Maybe because we were already there, or maybe because when things get weird your brain wants to normalize it before it sounds the alarm. But the moment I saw they were letting people in one at a time, I felt something twist in my chest. There was no sign, no warning about it. No solo experience branding, nothing. Just a girl in this blood-smeared costume standing by the door, opening it for one person at a time like it was routine. Rico went in first. He didn't hesitate. Dev followed after a couple minutes, shrugging like it was whatever. Then it was just me and Jonah left under the floodlight. No music playing, no chatter around us. Just this weird heavy silence where even the crickets felt like they were holding back. I kept staring at the entrance, waiting for Rico or Dev to pop back out laughing, like it was some prank. Nothing. The door would open. One person would go in, then it shut like a vault behind them. No windows, no sound bleeding out, just that door and the person guarding it, standing still like she was waiting for a cue that never came. I tried convincing myself this was part of the gimmick, like maybe Hollow Creek was going for a more immersive vibe, something edgy. I even thought it was kind of smart if they were doing it for jump scare timing or whatever. But my stomach said something else. It wasn't screaming panic, it was this dull low ache, like my body knew before my brain did. Like something about being separated from the group made me pray. Still, when it was my turn, I walked forward. I didn't even pause. It took a few steps before I realized how wrong the silence was. Haunted houses usually have that background noise. Chains clanking, distant screams, maybe some creepy music loop on a busted speaker. But here, nothing. Just my own footsteps on worn-out plywood and the faint buzz of old light fixtures trying not to die. There were props. Bloody limbs, mannequins strung up like corpses, plastic rats twitching from wires. But none of it landed. It felt like I was walking through someone's garage after a failed Halloween party. I wasn't scared by any of it. I wasn't even looking at most of it. I was listening, waiting for the moment something would actually hit me. The scare, the twist, the part where all this tension made sense. And then I felt it. A shove from behind. Not a tap, not a playful bump, a shove. Not enough to knock me over, but enough to make me stumble forward. I froze. I didn't even turn around right away. My brain just slotted it in like, oh, okay, actor doing their thing. No big deal. But then it happened again. Another shove. Harder this time. That's when it clicked, something was off. It wasn't part of the routine. There was no timing to it. No dramatic effect. It wasn't a character popping out. It was someone behind me, keeping me moving. And it wasn't theatrical, either. There was no whisper or sudden growl to sell the scare, just silent force. I didn't know how long I kept walking. It felt like I didn't have a choice. The hallway narrowed. The lights started to fade out, and I just kept going, like I wasn't a visitor anymore, just something being moved along. The hallway swallowed everything. It was a kind of darkness that felt alive, dense, heavy, like it was pressing against my skin. I couldn't see where the walls ended or where the next room might be. The floor felt uneven under my feet, soft in places like someone had pulled up the boards and just laid them back down without nailing them in. Then it happened. A hand grabbed my arm, hard, not in a theatrical boo gotcha kind of way. It wasn't playful or fast. It was deliberate. Heavy fingers digging in, not just grabbing, holding. For a second I froze. My brain tried to label it as another scare tactic, some actor pulling a bit of immersive theater, but it was too much, too tight, too real. When I shoved him off, I expected him to break character, to laugh or say something, even just to move back. But he didn't. He stayed still, just watching. I couldn't make out his face, barely made out the outline. He started moving his arms, slow and exaggerated, like he was trying to act out a scene only he understood. And I just stood there, caught between logic and panic. My mind was running in two directions, telling me it was just a weird performance, and also screaming that this was not how it was supposed to go. I couldn't tell what he wanted. There were no cues, no sound effects, no lights guiding the path forward. That was the moment the whole thing cracked. I didn't feel like part of the attraction anymore. I wasn't being scared. I was being isolated, set apart, pushed into something that didn't feel like it had anything to do with Halloween or haunted houses. It felt like being chosen, and not in a good way. I don't remember exactly how I found my way out of that hallway. I think I just started moving without thinking, guided more by the instinct to leave than any understanding of where I was going. The darkness didn't lift all at once, just faded into a weak flicker of dying lights. The kind of lighting you see in basements no one wants to fix. And that's when I saw it. A security camera just barely hanging on by the wires, tilted sideways, cracked and completely dead. It wasn't even pretending to work. No blinking light, no rotation, just there, dangling like a leftover from a better version of this place that never really existed. I don't know why, but that moment hit harder than anything before it. It was like the final nail in this weird realization no one had been watching. Whatever just happened back there, it hadn't been caught. There wasn't a control room with monitors and bored staff keeping tabs on things. There wasn't anyone coming to step in if things got too intense. That kind of broke something in me. Up until then, some part of me had still been holding on to the idea that this was controlled chaos, that even if it got too real, there'd be boundaries, rules. But seeing that camera, it was like finding a fire alarm already ripped off the wall during a blaze. I didn't feel scared right then. Not exactly. I felt dumb, like I had walked into something pretending to be safe and I'd just accepted it, paid for it. laughed about it in the parking lot. I kept wondering how many other people had walked that hallway, totally unaware that if something did happen, no one would know. When I finally stepped outside, the air felt weirdly normal, crisp, October night, slight breeze. The smell of grass and gravel. And there they were, Jonah, Rico, Dev, just standing around like nothing happened. No one was even looking at the building. They were laughing about something, maybe a prop that got them or how lame part of it was. I don't think they even noticed how long I'd been inside. Or if they did, they weren't putting anything together. I stood there for a second, like my body arrived, but my brain was still catching up. I tried to tell them what happened, or what I thought happened, but the words came out messy, disconnected. It's hard to explain something when you're still trying to believe it yourself. I didn't even know how to describe that guy, or the grab, or how none of it felt staged. I just kept thinking, was I overreacting? Was it just part of the show? But deep down, I knew better. We went to the ticket booth, and the girl behind the counter barely looked up. She had this expression like it was the end of a shift she didn't want to be at in the first place. When I told her something had happened inside, she didn't ask questions, just said the manager wasn't around, and gave me my money back. That was it. And that's what stuck with me the most. The total lack of reaction. I'd gone through something that felt real, dangerous, even, and their response was to hand me cash and close the drawer. It was like nothing I said mattered. Like I'd just walked out of a play I didn't understand, and everyone else had already moved on to the next scene without me. I was barely functioning that morning. Didn't sleep much, couldn't stop replaying everything in my head. The hallway, the grab, that dead camera, it all looped in fragments. Like a dream you don't want to admit might not have been one. I kept telling myself maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe it was just a bad actor with no sense of boundaries. I kept trying to land somewhere logical, somewhere safe. Then I saw the post. She was someone from campus, not someone I knew well, but familiar enough. Same dorm, maybe a shared class. She'd posted a long message about what happened to her inside that haunted house. Same night, same layout, same setup, except her experience didn't stop at a grab. Hers was worse. Way worse. She went to the police, and just like that, Hollow Creek was gone. Not even a week later. Vanished. No goodbye post, no explanation. The site was cleared out like it had never existed, like it folded in on itself overnight. They said the man who assaulted her, and maybe me, wasn't part of the staff, that he wasn't on payroll, that no one knew who he was. But how does that happen? How does someone not on staff get inside the maze, past the costumes, past the ticket booth, into the black hallways where no one's watching? I kept thinking about that camera, the silence, the way the actors didn't break character even when I said something was wrong. Either they really didn't know, or they didn't want to. It's the kind of thing that stays with you, not because of what happened, but because of what almost did. And because the scariest part isn't the man in the hallway. It's knowing he could still be out there, doing the same thing somewhere else, and no one would know. When I got home, I didn't even change. I just collapsed onto my bed, fully dressed, hoodie still damp with sweat. My limbs felt like dead weight, my head buzzing in that weird, sick way, like I'd been spun too fast and dropped. I passed out almost instantly, but it wasn't sleep, it felt more like falling. I was right back in that room. The red lights, the fog, the corner. I didn't need to look. I knew he was there. I could feel him, and then he spoke. Not loud, not angry, just quiet, like a whisper sliding right into my ear. He said my name, not like a threat, but more like he never really left. I opened my eyes, wide awake now, and he was there, standing over my bed, or bending, really. Too tall to fit right in the space, his spine bent at angles that shouldn't have been possible, his face just inches from mine, eyes stretched open like they were stuck that way, like they'd never blink again. His mouth wasn't moving, but I swear I could still hear him. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't scream. I just laid there, my chest locked up, staring into the face I'd tried so hard to forget. And then I broke. I let out this scream I didn't know I had in me. All of it came out at once: fear, rage, confusion. I remember the door bursting open and the light flooding in, my mom's voice, her hands shaking me, and just like that, he was gone. But the fear didn't leave with him. It stayed, it settled. I haven't touched weed since, barely drink, and haunted houses. I won't even drive past them now. Not after that night, not after him. When they first told me about the role, I kinda laughed, thought they were joking. Tied up, like actually tied up. Apparently yes, that was the whole gimmick. I'd be this helpless character, bound to a weathered wooden post in the middle of the corn maze, screaming for help like I'd been left for dead. Super theatrical, super immersive, very Raven Hollow. Victor was the one who explained everything. He walked me through how the maze worked, how the crowd flow was managed, when breaks would happen, said I'd be rotated out between groups, and that someone with a radio would be nearby just in case. He was calm about it, like this was normal, like people got tied to posts every night, and it was no big deal. I think I nodded a lot, just to look like I was cool with it. But the truth, I wasn't. Not really. There was something about it that didn't sit right. I don't know what exactly. It wasn't even the being tied part, honestly. It was more the idea of being out there, planted like some prop in the middle of this twisted corn maze with all these strangers walking past me. The minute Victor walked off and left me alone, I knew exactly what I'd signed up for, and I wasn't sure I liked it. Still, I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being dramatic, that it was all just pretend. I even convinced myself it would be fun to get into character, to be a little over the top with it. But the feeling stuck with me, that quiet, buzzing kind of unease in the back of my head. It was too late to back out anyway. I was already tied. There was this guy, Nico, kind of quiet but in a chill way, not weird. He'd been cast in one of the haunted houses, the one with the fake asylum theme. I only talked to him once during rehearsal, but he made an impression. Seemed like the kind of person who didn't take stuff too seriously, just there to do the job and bounce. We laughed about how corny some of the props were. It wasn't deep, but it felt normal, which mattered in a place like Raven Hollow. The next night, he was gone. Not like late, or stepped out for a smoke gone. Just gone. No one mentioned him during call time. His name wasn't on the shift board anymore. His costume, some bloody straitjacket thing, was still hanging up in the trailer, like he was supposed to come back and didn't. I remember seeing his boots under the bench, laces still double knotted. Someone mumbled something about him quitting. Another person said maybe it was a family emergency, but it didn't sound like anyone actually knew. They were just filling in the blank, and for whatever reason, nobody seemed all that curious. Like that was that. He vanished, and we all moved on. I kept glancing at his stuff for the rest of the night. It felt off, like unfinished business, but I didn't ask. I don't even know why. Maybe I didn't want to hear the answer, or maybe it was the way people looked when I brought it up. This kind of blank, heavy silence that told me not to push. Part of me wonders if I should have done something, asked around, pressed a little harder, but I didn't. And the longer I stayed there, the more I started to understand why. The first few waves of guests were easy enough to read. People laughed, screamed, pointed. Some were obnoxious, some were drunk, some were just there for Instagram photos. Most of them played along, even if it was half-hearted. I'd scream, beg for help, yell that he's coming back, and someone would always toss out a joke or a fake gasp. It was all kind of stupid, but that was the point. Then those two guys showed up. They didn't fit the rhythm. That was the first thing I noticed. They didn't react to anything. Not the ambient screams from the maze, not the chainsaw a few yards back, not even me. I was mid-scream, arms strained against the ropes, and they just walked by, slowly. No emotion, no sound, just this strange stillness. One of them, the taller one, turned his head as they passed me. Didn't say a word, just looked. His eyes were too wide. Not shocked or scared, just vacant, like he was watching something only he could see. It didn't feel like a person reacting to a haunted house. It felt like I wasn't really there at all. They moved like they had all the time in the world, not curious, not amused, just moving. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, that they were just super committed to the vibe, or maybe just socially awkward. But the way they looked at me, no smirks, no eye rolls, no sarcasm, it stayed in my head for longer than it should have. Everyone else treated me like an actor. These two didn't. I wasn't even sure they saw me as part of the show. I kept performing, but something in me was different after that. I kept watching the edge of the corn, just in case. It had been quiet for a few minutes, one of those lulls between groups. I'd started to loosen my posture a bit, not enough to be noticeable, but just enough to stop my shoulders from aching. The sound system kept looping screams and creepy ambient music, but otherwise it was just wind and rustling, which out there wasn't unusual. The corn maze always sounded alive even when no one was around. But then I heard different rustling, not the kind made by wind. It was heavier, deliberate, and it wasn't coming from the trail. The guests were supposed to follow this one carved path, single file, one direction. This was off to the side, deep in the stalks. Too close. Then I saw them. Same two from earlier. No mistaking them. One of them stayed just inside the corn, maybe 5 or 6 feet away, just far enough that I couldn't make out his full face. The other stepped out like he knew exactly where I'd be. Like he'd done it before. He didn't say anything, didn't laugh, just moved toward me like I wasn't part of the show. Like the ropes didn't matter. My brain short-circuited for a second. I didn't even think. I broke character completely. No more fake screams, no more scripted lines. I just started yelling. Loud, messy, panic-level loud. I kept thinking someone had to hear me. Someone had to notice this wasn't part of the act. And eventually someone did come. One of the staff. But by then they were gone. Slipped back into the corn like they were never there. No one caught them. No one saw where they went. No explanation. Just gone. Of course they were. Victor was the one who untied me. His hands were shaking. I remember that. Even if the rest of the moment's a blur, someone else, maybe one of the floor leads, was saying something in this slow, calm voice, like trying not to spook me more. I couldn't make out the words. It all felt muffled, like I was underwater. I couldn't even tell if I was still crying or if the shaking was just my body catching up to what happened. I didn't wait around for a debrief or some kind of response. I pulled out my phone and called my dad. The second he heard my voice, I didn't even have to explain. He just said, "Come home." So I did. I walked out, still wearing the costume. Makeup smeared, ropes still marked across my wrists. I didn't even look back at the maze. Just headed straight to my car like it was the only solid thing left. I remember starting the engine with this weird detachment, like I was watching myself do it. One of the supervisors caught me at the gate, said they'd still pay me for the shift, said to reach out if I wasn't coming back. But no one really asked how I was doing. Not really. It felt like they were reading from a script, say the nice thing, move along, keep the machine running. I kept thinking there'd be some kind of follow-up, like someone would want a statement, or check the cameras, or something. But I never heard anything. I never officially quit. Never wrote an email. I just didn't show up again. No one called to ask why. Maybe that's just how these places work. Or maybe they already knew the answer. I didn't even notice it at first. Just a white sedan, maybe a little older, maybe a little too clean for how dusty the back roads were near Raven Hollow. But it was late, and I was still wired, still playing everything over and over in my head. Those guys, the corn, the way no one said anything after. I wasn't really focused on traffic. I just wanted to get home. Then I made a turn. The white car followed. Then another turn. Still there. I tried brushing it off. Coincidence. 100 people probably left the haunt around the same time. It's not a big town. But when I cut across a residential street and it matched my path again, same distance, same speed, my chest got tight. I tried not to panic. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the night had already gotten to me. But when I made a U-turn near a closed gas station and it flipped around behind me without hesitation, that was it. I remember fumbling with my phone, hands slippery, trying to type in nearest police station without crashing. It felt like the longest 3 minutes of my life. I didn't even signal the last few turns. I just drove. My whole body was screaming to get somewhere safe. As soon as I pulled into the lot, the white car kept going, didn't even pause, just disappeared down the road like it had never been following me at all. I stayed in my car for what felt like forever. I wasn't waiting for anyone. I don't even know what I thought would happen. Maybe I was just hoping I'd imagined the whole thing. But I hadn't. I never went back to Raven Hollow after that, not even to get my last check. And I still think about Nico sometimes.